Well, today is an exciting day for the TankDrive, because I am going to be fitting the new RAW4x4 suspension for the tank. So come along on this journey and let's see how this RAW suspension is fitted. So the system I'm fitting to my tank is one of the first ones that's been flown in specifically to do some promotional information. I just want to give a disclaimer that I did buy this suspension, and then I'll give you my honest opinion on how does it ride. We're going to have a look obviously today at the fitment, maybe speak to Tris from RAW and just understand what makes the RAW suspension unique. So yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on the suspension. That little load of a lift is going to be really needed, especially on the trails. You don't knock the protection plates all the time, so that's going to be really great. And yeah, so we're off to BOC out in Malmesbury for the fitment, and yeah, let's get there and let's get this fitted. And we've arrived at BOC in Malmesbury. Here it is. This is the front foils, and these are the front struts over here. And this is the unique thing about this suspension, is that it needs this pin, right? So this pin has been specifically manufactured for fitting these shocks to the tank, and yeah, we're going to fit these now, and the coils are going to arrive a little bit later. Here's a little look before the upgrade, and it'll be interesting to see how it looks after. Notice the position of the upper control arm. It's quite level, horizontal.
Next after 550. Next 4 530. Yeah. Everything's not stopped. Suspension, no spaces. 525, those 4. 550.
Just can you just explain us how these, well, what's the little key in a motor tube and a twin tube suspension?
Okay, so you get two different types of shocks. You get monotube and twin tube shock. Twin tube is your most common shock used in most standard vehicles and most upgraded suspension solutions as well. But then you get monotube. Monotube is a performance shock. It's faster acting. It's got better cooling than a twin tube shock necessarily would have. But it's not as durable necessarily, because with a twin tube shock like this, you've got an outer part and outer tube. Then on the inside, you've got an inner tube which is smaller, where your piston runs and your oil runs in inside. The problem with a monotube shock on a 4x4 application is, if the vehicle does really go, hard extreme conditions and terrains, when you do get a rock or a tree stump or something knocking the body of the shock, when the outer body gets dinged, that piston cannot move up and down, causing the shock to prematurely fail. But with a twin tube shock, you always have that extra call it protection of the outer tube can get damaged, but the inner tube does not, so the piston can still move freely. Alright, then the difference between a twin tube and a monotube is, on a monotube, you've got a floating piston moving up and down, with your oil and your gas completely separated. Gas at the bottom, oil at the top, and that moves up and down, which is basically how the damping gets managed. But with a twin tube shock, it works with a foot valve at the bottom. So your inner piston, in this case our nitro unit, is a 35mm internal bore size, which means the internal tube is 35mm in diameter. Piston 35mm obviously, and then it's got the foot valve at the bottom. The foot valve basically regulates the flow of oil, or the damping and the valving of the performance of the shock. So as it moves up and down, call it the characteristics of the shock, basically lets pushes the oil through the foot valve into the outer tube and back in and out as the shock oscillates up and down, and that is, as the oil goes into the outer tube, is where it cools and then moves back down into the inner tube. Then this unit's also got nitrogen gas added to it, so it's got a nitrogen gas cell at the top over here, which helps with keeping the unit running cooler for longer by 2 ways. First of all, nitrogen gas, as we all know, if you put them in your tires, it helps the road, makes the tires run cooler, and it keeps the unit pressurized. So a standard OE shock is normally a hydraulic shock, and your common foam cell technology shocks are also a hydraulic shock with a foam cell basically collapsing as the oil gets warm to get a bigger cooling surface on the outside for the oil. But where the nitrogen gas cell sits at the top with a twin tube shock or nitrogen gas twin tube shock, the difference is the nitrogen gas keeps the unit pressurized. When you keep the unit pressurized, you increase that flash point or boiling point of the oil. So think of a radiator cap on a vehicle. If the system is closed and sealed, the vehicle doesn't overheat. When does a vehicle overheat? When you've got a head gasket that went, or you've got a leaking water pipe, yes, or your radiator cap is faulty. So that causes the pressure, the pressure inside the system to go out, meaning that the oil of the coolant will then start boiling much quicker. When it's sealed, it doesn't happen. Same happens here. The oil, the nitrogen gas pressurizes the oil. And when you pressurize any fluid, you increase that boiling point, meaning that it takes longer for this oil inside to boil, which then causes premature fade. And that's why nitrogen gas is used in most common upgraded shocks on 4x4s and race cars.
So that normal OEMs don't fit nitrogen gas in the shock?
No, they use normal hydraulic oil shocks, no nitrogen gas, no foam cell, no nothing. And a foam cell shock is basically a hydraulic shock with the foam cell, so it does help with cooling better than a normal shock. But we also increase the body size and the bore size to get more oil in. Think of a small pot, big pot. You put 2 pots of oil, one with 1 liter oil, one with 2 liter oil on the same stove, on the same plate. Which one will boil first?
The smaller one.
Exactly. So the less quantity oil you've got, the sooner it will start boiling. So by increasing the body size, the bore size, we put more oil in, taking it longer to boil.
Cool, thanks.
Cool.
That's really good, thanks.
Lekker.
I really like the color of these springs and the whites of the shocks. I think it has a nice contrast to the grey of the vehicle, and I think it's going to look really good. And I do kind of like that modified look of the vehicle, so I'm very happy about the color. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think? So here's a little look at the length of the OEM versus the RAW. So that makes all the difference when you go into full articulation. I'm so excited to see how this is going to perform on the trails. Alright, so the vehicle's been fitted with the suspension, and I'm really impressed with how it looks so far. Yeah, the work here by Bok 4x4 has really been good. The guys are really good at what they do, and you guys should really support them. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to driving this vehicle now out of here. I'm going to be hypercritical obviously, because on the way here I was sort of studying all the bumps and all the way it handles the bumps in the road on the stock suspension. So now I'm going to be obviously testing it, or listening and sort of trying to feel every bump that I go over and see how it performs in comparison. Is it going to be stiff? Is it going to be handled well? How's it going to corner? So all of these things are questions that you guys, I'm sure, have for the vehicle. So yeah, let's wait until we get it out of the workshop and onto the road. Pure over there.
15, 16, you guys must maybe just go drive it a bit then.
We didn't have any ramps to test the articulation before and after, but we really wanted to see how it's going to perform. So we went down the road and found this little hill that we could test the articulation on, and boy were we surprised.
More. Hold on. we go. That's it.
Yeah, that's definitely going to help. Whoa, look at this. Tucked up nicely. I just want to give BOC Off-Road Industries a shout out for helping us with this install today. They sponsored the installation and I really appreciate the good job they did on my tank. If you need any off-road mods done to your vehicle, give BOC a call and I'm sure they'll help you out. Expert service and the best off-road accessories. Cheers guys. Alright guys, so the suspension's been fit and yeah, I'm very impressed. Now I know that might come off as being like biased in any way, but the ride comfort has not become harsher or anything. In fact, it's not softer or more compliant because I've just started driving it, but I can definitely say that the comfort is still there. There's no jarring, there's no like really anything to complain about. It's actually very comfortable. So yeah, we'll check back in. I'm going to hit the longer road now on the way back home, and that's where it's going to truly be able to be felt, because there were some bumps and some dips in the road, and I'll be able to give you more feedback. Alright, so now we're on the road. It's a road out in Malmesbury on the way back to Cape Town. The road is, you know, not a bad condition. There's a few bumps and things like that, but no big dips. It's an average road in South Africa, or average goodies road. It's not the N1 highway. So there are a few bumps and dips and a few, say, slight corrugations. Because there are a lot of trucks out here, you know, moving grain and things like that. So the roads do get used. But back to the suspension, how's it handling? Well, the car is definitely higher, which makes a lot of sense, right? So, but it actually feels higher. So when you get in, obviously there's that extra 50 mil. You have to sort of get up a bit on it. Not a big issue, but it just feels like you're getting into a truck now. You're getting into like this beast. And then the ride quality, I must say, so far, stability on the road might be enhanced, just in terms of if the wind's trying to move you or something. It just feels a little bit more stable, and with that comes a little bit more confidence, right? So it just makes you feel a little bit more confidence when you see a big bump in the road, like a big dip. You know, you look at it now and you're like, that's fine, because you're not gonna sort of have any bottoming out. Not that it was bottoming out on the standard suspension, but when I had the trailer on and I had the car full, the rear was bottoming out quite a lot. Well, not quite a lot, but every time you hit like a really big dip in the road, you'd hit the bump stops. That's with like, you know, 200 plus kilograms of the pull weight, plus the car full of the boot full. So, you know, it's to be expected, but we're going to still test that in the next few months or the next few weeks. We're going to go camping, we're going to put the trailer on, we're going to load it up, and then I'll be able to give you feedback on that. But for now, just normal urban driving or these B roads, confidence inspiring is what I can say. Comfort, it's the same. It's the same, but now there's a bit more confidence, a little bit more sure-footedness. Even when you go over bumps that make the vehicle sort of, you know, shuffle or, you know, feel unsettled, it feels a little bit more like it's handling it better. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Because you're not upgrading the suspension because it's going to be the same. You're upgrading the suspension because you wanted the improvement over the standard suspension. And that's what we have here. I feel that we have a definite improvement on the quality of the ride. It actually has made the vehicle even better than it was. And it was already a very good ride. So it's actually made it better. So far, very happy. Very happy. So I'm just going to enjoy the beautiful scenery out here and the beautiful ride, and I'll give you my final thoughts at the end of the trip. But first I need to pop in a tire mod to do the wheel alignment, because that's actually a crucial part of this installation.
It's going to run off your tires. Toe in, toe out, camber in, camber out, right? The top one is the caster, forward and backwards, right? So for you to get more caster, right, then the control arm at the top will stand more up. Understand? For it to get to the specs, I can set it at the bottom, right? So that's the maximum caster I can get out of this car. But it doesn't really matter, it's like a bicycle fork.
Okay, oh, okay, yeah.
So you need a caster in the road to keep it in a straight line, you know? And you need the right-hand wheel to be a little bit behind the left-hand side wheel for the road camber also, to keep the car at all times.
Yeah, because of the, yeah.
Right, so that's what I'm doing on that, you know? So, but at least if you can get that right, it doesn't matter on the caster that much, understand?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's...
As long as the toe also is straight.
Yeah. The toe must be straight, the camera must be straight, and then you're good. So this will run off wheels, that will run off wheels, this will run off wheels, that will run off wheels, but that's no problem. Okay, so we've got the suspension dialed in now. Thanks to TireMart in Durbanville, they really were helpful. Greg there from TireMart, you know, they really did a good job. Steering wheel straight, and they got the suspension dialed in nicely. Yeah, so I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this suspension. Initial suspension fitment, and so far I'm loving it, but I'm still in the analysis phase, so make sure you tune in again to see what I say about the off-road performance, and just living it with it for another few weeks. You know, obviously it needs to settle in a bit. We'll still see how that turns out, but do tune in for the next episode, and thanks for watching.